take your political theater to Texas.
This is not about political theater.
And it was more political theater than anything.
It's nothing more than pure political theater.
It's pure political theater.
Hello, folks. Hello. Give me a second. I am just setting up this Instagram over here. So how is everyone? It is Tuesday. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure that the sound is sounding. The sound is sounding. We're here. We're here. Listen, as we often ask, what the hell is going on? What is it? What the hell is going on between the sheets in my home? Baby, wait, let me explain. Because the U.S. is going to hell. Okay. How y'all doing? Good to see y'all in the chat popping. Please let me know where you are coming from. Let me know who is in the house. We are not all in the northeast of the United States. This is not a United States-centric show. We are here to discuss all the ways in which we are suffering under the political theater that is the United States government. Again, the gangsters of the United States government. I am your host, Dr. T. You know, I gotta admit, just gotta check in with you all. I gotta admit, I'm a little tired. The BX is always in the building. We gotta represent. The BX is always in the building. Hold it down all the time. We always here. Now I got a Bay Area. That's my people. I was just out there. I love it. I love the Bay Area. Bay Area is always nice to me. We got more in the Bay Area. Chi-Town, what up? One of my favorite cities. One of my favorite cities. I love and appreciate you all because it's only 4 o'clock out there. So the fact that you all join me in the middle of your day, but I always got to represent for the Bronx. Maxine, always good to see you here. Longtime supporter of the show. I have so much on my brain. And so one of the things about one, being incredibly brilliant, and two, having attention deficit disorder is that there's always things popping. Why are you ashamed for Oklahoma? That's where my family from. That's where my people are from. So I got people from Oklahoma to represent. So it's good. It's good. We're from all over. We are all over. I think it's important to acknowledge that our people are everywhere. It's funny because I think I want to get into that. It's probably going to be something I talk about a little bit longer at the end of the show. Not necessarily a political thing, but then the racialization of our people is always political. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I have so much in my head. And one of the things that's been going on with me lately is that I've really been cautious about what I engage. And I thought about this because just before I had taken a nap and gotten up, I was like, let me hop in the shower to wake myself up. Again, like I said, I'm a little bit tired, but I was let me wake myself up. But before that, I was exchanging this conversation, and this woman was telling me that her people are from Louisiana and they're not African American. And I said, okay. And there's a lot of conversations that happen about race, this thing that they call ethnicity that I don't 100% subscribe to, and how there seems to be this movement happening where people are making so many efforts to divest of being connected to enslaved people. And I'm concerned about that. So I think that's something I want to talk about maybe later in the show. I'll see how I'm feeling to get there. But that's something that I want to bring up because a lot of it is a psyop. And I need y'all to understand that. And that's one of the things you learn on this show, or at least you get asked to think about. We know that there are agents of chaos, right? We know that there's tens of millions of bot accounts that are created to sow discord in the United States and things like that. And we know that the Black people that are in the United States are often the target, particularly Black women, because Black women shape social media landscapes. I wrote a book about it. I don't have to get into it. So I think a lot about that. And so I'm just kind of, my head is a little bit there, but I'm going to start with the politics and the nonsense that we have been putting up with on behalf of, as a result of this place. So we have to revisit the shutdown, right? The government is still shut down. I don't want y'all to think about that. What are y'all? What's in your cups? I got water over here, a little whiskey over here, just a little bit, because I'm tired. It might put me to sleep, right? Alcohol is a downer. What snacks y'all snacking on? We got to revisit this shutdown. So right now, actually, I'll show you there, because right now they're meeting. I don't know if you all were aware. Let's see. Hold on real quick. All right.
The Senate took it out
So,
before abandoning
right now they're still
negotiations
debating
altogether.
the
Simply
funding bill.
wrong. We have provided advanced funding for the medical care for veterans for the last 15 years. It's Veterans Day today, and this bill doesn't even meet the funding level that President Trump and OMB director vote restored.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that they started at 6:30. They were the government is still shut down. It is Veterans Day, right? So they weren't doing anything for Veterans Day, but they're still trying to figure this stuff out. Yeah. So all of this talk and everybody's like, oh, everything's fixed. Everything is, we were talking about how the Dems cave. I did a special live. I think I came on Sunday, right? I think you guys were there. They're talking about, well, we're good. We these people have caved, and no, but actually, they're still working on this stuff, and we don't actually have resolutions on much of anything. And somebody, my friend Patrick, he said, he posted on Facebook, he was like, "You're right. The Dems are about to blow a 28-3 lead." Now, I wrote this article before all of this happened. I know what I'm talking about, folks. I know what I am talking about. I said the Dems are going to blow a 28-3 lead because that is what they do. This was before any of this talk about the defectors or anything like that. I called it because that's how they are. And I understand. I was asking people, I was like, why don't you, leave the party? And people are like, oh, because I want to vote in the primaries. Understand something from me. Understand, if 10 million people, like say on a single day, change their registration to independent, or to Working Families Party, or, something else, the Green Party, whatever it is, Democratic Social, whatever it is, the DNC would notice and be shook because there's no leverage there, right? They rely on this duopoly. Again, remember I say all the time, the Democrats and the Republicans are like this. They're the same goddamn, they're the same party, okay? They just sit on different sides of the aisle. Okay. Again, these people have brunch and dinner together. They go to each other's homes for the holidays. They go on vacations and yachts together. They're all the same people, right? But they've convinced us that they're different. And so we sign up, we register to be part of these groups. And we give them money, we make donations, we do all these things, $1.5 billion on a losing campaign for president, right? They need that. They need that to sustain themselves, right? They're not doing anything and have not been doing anything for a very long time. Yes, Tiffany says the 8 moderates are not up for the re-election too, so they had nothing to lose. This was a calculated effort, okay? Behind closed doors. All right, you, and you, since we don't have to worry about you being primaried or voted out or anything like that, you guys go and shut, make sure that we get this thing shut down, end the shutdown. We'll make you the scapegoats. You'll take one for the team, right? You'll take one for the team. We'll continue our bullshit rhetoric of how we were never give in, right? You see in some of the Democrats, like the top Democrats, I'm still committed to not voting for. Of course, because you want to appeal to your constituents, even though you are totally going along with this plot. Like, they think we're stupid. Chat, They think we're stupid. And you know what? You know why? Because a lot of people are. They think we're stupid because so many people actually are. They don't expect us, people in this community, we get together, we have these conversations. They don't expect us to think these things through, right? They don't expect us to be smart enough to see past all the bullshit. What up, Katie? Good to see you in the chat. Come on. So they go and they pick these people. Kane. Everybody's like, I'm so disappointed in Kane. Wasn't Kane running with Hillary Clinton? What the hell are y'all talking about? Man, come on. Hillary Rodham Clinton, one of the most ridiculously corrupt people in the world, married to Slick Willie. Come on. Let's get it together, folks. So I want, I want us to think through these things. All right. So you got the Democrats are walking around and I'm not voting for this. I don't support this. This is bad. This is not good for us. And we're still going to act like we're putting up a fight. And shut the fuck up. Like, come on. All right. Hold on. Let me check. Oh, let's look at Mike Johnson. Let's get Mike Johnson here. Let's look at this loser. Oh my gosh, I hate him. He said, I talk to you all the time about, Mike Johnson and the gaslight. This is a man who pretends that he is of deep Christian faith, and he is not. He is not. All right, let's watch this real quick.
Mr. Speaker, can you guarantee whatever the bill passes the Senate on ACA, you'll give it a vote in the House?
Look, we're going to do in the House what we always do. That is a deliberative process. I mean, we get to find consensus on whatever the proposal is. As you know, I do not guarantee the outcome of legislation or dates or deadlines or anything.
Okay. Did everybody hear that? Did everybody hear what he said? If you didn't hear what he said, because he's got accessibility issues, I will tell you what Mike Johnson said. Mike Johnson said, fuck y'all. They're never gonna monetize me. Mike Johnson said, go to hell. Mike Johnson said, oh, you thought. Mike Johnson said, gotcha. Do what we always do, right? Which is screw over the American people. Mike Johnson said, that's what he said. Okay. Remember I said Sunday, I said, they like Scouts honor with the crossed hand. Scouts honor. We're going to do it. They just said, we ain't guaranteeing nothing. And so what was all of that for? Right? What was all of that for, folks? Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Now listen, we got to go back to our man Gavin Newsom. That's white people's favorite guy. They're gonna vote for him. Not you white people, because you white people are smart. But here to go, here we go. Let's look at Gavin Newsom. Let's go. Let's see what he said. Here we go. We got to watch Fox News real quick.
A little bit. Right now, we've got to hold the line because I think America will become unrecognizable in a year or two unless we fight back.
He wants to fight harder, and he thinks the Democrats aren't fighting hard enough against you and, of course, the Republicans. Gavin Newsom.
I mean, I knew Gavin for 4 years. I got along great with him. But
see what I'm saying?
He's gone radical left, and, he's building a train system from San Francisco to L.A. that's got about a 2,000 or 3,000% cost overruns. The worst thing I've never seen anything like it. I've seen cost overruns. I've never seen anything like that. If you take a look at what he's done, so they lost 25,000 houses. Do you know they haven't issued one building permit yet? So these people are trying to rebuild the house.
He's not answering the question. Okay? He's not answering the question.
But he did something. Mm-hmm. He did something even worse than that. He's now taking a big section of Palisades or some area, and he's going to build low-income housing where they used to have luxury housing. He's going to put low-income housing in. His fire stuff is out of.
He's saying that like it's a bad thing.
Of control. The forests are burning down all over the place. And honestly, I always liked him, but he's a horrible governor. He's a horrible governor. If he...
Okay. So I wanted to show that for a couple of reasons. Okay. First, Gavin Newsom, Democratic governor of California, Democrat. He's as much a Democrat as Kamala Harris is, right? And talking about, they got to hold the line, don't give in. Now, I don't know if you all watched that whole summit that Gavin Newsom was at, but he basically was like, I don't know them people. Gavin went there. I want you all to go watch it. Gavin went and basically was like, California's different. California ain't got nothing to do with the rest of this. California, we our own people. We doing our own thing. Like, it was really interesting to watch him kind of throw the entire country under the bus, because he's like basically telling these foreign entities like, hey, don't punish California for what this guy is doing. We're far away. We don't have nothing to do with what's going on in DC. Like, he really was like that. And the thing is, what's interesting about that, and why I think about the theater of that, is because study secession, study the fragmentation of these United States and where that comes from. California can be its own country. It's got one of the largest GDPs in the world as a state, right? And somebody fact check me. I think it's like 4 or something like that. Or anyway, it's got one of the highest GDPs out of any space, any kind of state, right? Over countries, over everything. It's got a strong government. It's got millions of people. It's got key cities, prime real estate. California could be its own country. And so when you hear a Democrat talking like that, right? It's either 4 or 6, right? Thank y'all. When you hear a Democrat talking like that, that should concern you, folks. That is Southern Democrat talk from back in the day. Okay? So, a lot of people, they be posting those memes where people are cutting off pieces of the country and all this stuff. Stop all of that nonsense, okay? Because they actually will start giving credence to that. And what is the point, right? It's not about the states separating themselves or seceding from the union. That's not it. If the United States loses California, that's the beginning of the end, right? If the United States loses New York, that's the beginning of the end, right? I can't say the same thing about Texas or Florida, though, right? But whatever. Texas needs to go back to Mexico anyway. California needs to go back to Mexico. But I just wanted to share that. So that was that. But then Trump, he kind of comes in. Because he had this whole interview with Laura Ingraham. I'm not going to play much of that. You can go and watch it. It is one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever hear. I know he speaks a lot in hyperbole, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. It really is. That interview really was one of the worst things that I've seen from him. And from me, I'm only saying, we don't speculate and stuff like that. Where's my allegedly, and just kind of having spent many, many years, nearly 2 decades, as a mental health worker, right? Social worker, therapist, all that good stuff. Something ain't right with him. I'm just saying. I think we all know something ain't right. Could be organic deterioration, could be dementia, could be all these things. I don't know. I didn't look like Alzheimer's, but it could be some stuff going on, some degenerative brain disease or something. I don't know. Something wrong with that man. And it's not just ego. 20 years ago, I say, okay, we're with ego. But it's a little bit beyond that. That man he ain't good. He ain't good. All right. So that was that. And then what else happened? So the airlines, let's talk about the airlines. So the FAA, we know this is one of the biggest things. I just have to remind everybody that the Secretary of Transportation was on The Real World. And that doesn't make sorry. That doesn't mean that he can't do the job. But he was on The Real World. And Donald Trump was on The Apprentice. So if we want to clown Donald Trump for being on The Apprentice, Sean Duffy was on The Real World. You told me you didn't know that? Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can get old pictures of him. Let me see if we can get some old pictures of him. when he was on The Real World. Yes, hold on. He was in Boston. Yes, let me show. I gotta show this. It's funny because Camilla, who was also on there with him, I got to read her book. She sent me that. Her people sent me a book. That's him. Okay, right here. Look at this. This is Sean Duffy. He was in Real World Boston. Okay, Boston was a season that a lot of people really like too. It's one of my favorite seasons. But I never liked him. He was very conservative, and he was, and I never liked him. I always had a bad vibe. He had bad vibes. He had bad energy. But now he's the Secretary of Transportation. And so here's what happened. They're saying CBS News said that airlines were expected to cancel 6% of their flights at the 40 of the busiest airports. So we're talking Hartsfield in Atlanta, Philadelphia, JFK, LGA in New York, the DC area ones, California, even Cincinnati was thrown in there, cutting the flights and stuff. And at first it was 4%, but they put it up to 6% today because there was an order from the FAA that they needed to cut back even more. But what ends up happening was Donald Trump, he sent out this message. Now, y'all know I'm on Truth Social. I don't have the screenshot on here. I'm just going to read it to you. So, I'm on Truth Social because I keep up with stuff. People ask, why are you on Truth Social? Well, how the hell you don't know what this man's saying if you ain't there to see him say it? Because that's where he says most of his stuff, right? All right. So this is what Trump said. Well, listen to this because it's absolutely off. It's what the young people say. It's off the chain. That's what we used to say. Let's try again. All air traffic controllers must go back to work now. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked. And if I do this, it's because he's got quotation marks. For those air traffic controllers who were, all caps, great patriots and didn't take, all caps, any time off for the Democrat shutdown hoax, I will be recommending a bonus of $10,000 per person for distinguished service to our country. For those that did nothing but complain and took time off, even though everyone knew that they would be paid in full, right, all caps, shortly into the future, I am, all caps, not happy with you. You didn't step up to help the USA against the, all caps, fake Democrat attack that was only meant to hurt our country. You will have a negative mark, at least in my mind, against your record, of course, because you can't do anything to them, right? If you want to leave service in the near future, please do not hesitate to do so with no payment or severance of any kind. You will be quickly replaced by true patriots who will do a better job on the brand new state-of-the-art equipment, the best in the world, that we are in the process of ordering. The last administration wasted billions of dollars trying to fix antiquated junk. They had no idea what they were doing. Again, to our great American patriots, all caps, God bless you. I won't be able to send you your money fast enough. To all others, all caps, report to work immediately. God bless America, President Donald J. Trump. Guys, what are we doing? What are we? Every day, we fall deeper into the cesspool of an irrelevant nation. It's hard to believe that this is not intentional, right? I understand that people say, they put a lot on him and stuff, and people want to talk about Project 2025, and I'm like, cool. But it's hard to believe that this isn't intentional sabotage. And when we think about things like, again, like them devaluing Kenvue so that Kimberly Clark could come and buy it, right? By lying and saying that Tylenol causes autism, but then they walked that back, right after the sale was done. We have to always think of, we got to follow the money. We always have to follow the money with Trump. We always have to try to figure things out, because if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense to him. And he's really good at destroying anything that's a money-making thing. Like, I don't get it. Let me see what's happening on Instagram. Sorry, I don't be meaning to ignore y'all. I just be wanting y'all to come over and just come be on YouTube with us. But anyway, Shout out to Facebook. I know there's people watching on Facebook Live as well. Thank you. If you have just come in, please be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Yes, Sean Duffy's wife, Rachel Campos, was on The Real World San Francisco, the episode, the season with activist Pedro Zamora. Yes, they got 9 kids together. 9 kids. 9 kids. 9 kids. So Trump was later asked, Laura asked him, like, where's the money coming? He's like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't know. He's obviously, no, and this was what he said, like the person he says, oh, we'll find the money. I always find the money for stuff like this, right? We have to think about that. This whole fight for the whole SNAP thing or whatever, everybody was like saying, hey, they spent all the money. They spent the SNAP money. It's possible. He's also suing the BBC for like $5 million or $1 billion. I think it's something. Let me see. Hold on. Trump sues. I have so much news in my head. It's just ridiculous. Oh, Trump is threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion. And he said it's over a documentary that his lawyer claims made false, defamatory, malicious, disparaging, and inflammatory edits to a speech that the president made before the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. And it's so interesting to me because the documentary is called Trump, A Second Chance. Now, we all know that he's made these claims before. That was the suit against Paramount, was that they altered Kamala Harris's interview to rig the election or whatever. And they paid him. They settled and paid him, which is why, and everybody was saying at the time when that happened, they said, if they pay him, he won't stop there. He's now going to sue everybody who says anything that he doesn't like, right? And that is exactly what he has done. He has, he's having these lawsuits or threatening these lawsuits against pretty much every media outlet that says anything that he doesn't like, right? And it's because he's broke, right? We've talked about this tons of times, right? Donald Trump is broke. The whole reason he was doing this is to make money for his family. All he cares about his family. His family has gotten stupid rich since the beginning of his this particular term. I mean, they have made so much money, whether it's off of crypto, whether it's Jared Kushner being the new god of war now that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. We're going to talk about that in a second. Like, it's this man, you understand, excuse me. So, he's also trying to get them to overturn the decision in New York because he doesn't want to have to pay that. I think it was like a lawsuit or something that said he had to pay $5 million. He doesn't want to have to pay that because he doesn't have the money for it, right? And so that's part of the issue, right? That's part of the issue. Okay, so let's see. Okay, because I was just looking. I was reading this morning these emails that came out basically that were showing that Epstein was the god of war, and I can't pull them up now. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was, like I said, I was a little bit tired today, but basically I'll give you some. Maybe we'll revisit that on Friday and I'll have more. But basically some emails have been leaked that kind of show that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in some negotiations between Israel and Cote d'Ivoire for weapons, right? To provide the Cote d'Ivoire army military some weapons, which we know that if they're weapons coming from Israel, it is being funded by the United States. We also know that in the Cote d'Ivoire and in that area, and that whole Western region where they have these minerals that are used to produce our devices, we know that there have been wars and all kinds of humanitarian crises and things like that, warring factions over these minerals. They're enslaving kids and other people to mine these minerals or whatever. That's why we keep saying you don't need a new device. Just use what you got, because we're all kind of contributing to this. But anyway, there are these emails that were leaked. And like I said, I'm going to get some more information on it. But there was these emails basically leaked saying that Jeffrey Epstein, if you saw the film God of War starring Nicolas Cage, Jeffrey Epstein, when these damn files are released, what we're talking about is catastrophic. Like, we're talking like possibly an economic extinction level event. We're talking a societal extinction level event. And this is why they don't want this to happen, because it is so much deeper than just the sex trafficking of minors, which in itself is already awful. And what the speculation is that Jeffrey Epstein was able to weasel his way into global politics, into global arms exchanges and things like that, that also involved trafficking children to these world leaders, to these military leaders, and all these kinds of things. And because he was doing that, he had leverage over them. And so he was able to go in and negotiate these kinds of arms deals, and the kickbacks he was getting from being the interloper. That's how he made all of his money. Because everybody's like, well, how did Jeffrey Epstein get wealthy? It wasn't just from sex trafficking minors and selling children to people. It's also selling weapons, right? That's what they're saying. We'll dive into that probably on Friday. And we'll, as I'm able to pull and get a little bit more of that information, okay? Because I want to be cohesive in what I'm talking about. But the reason why that's important is because, well, it's important in and of itself, right? But there's a couple of things that are happening that are coming up, right? So Democrat Adelita Grijalva, right? She's from Arizona, won the special election. We all know this. It's been 7 weeks since she won her special election, has not been sworn in. They're saying that they're going to swear her in tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the House is expected to begin voting on this package as soon as 4 p.m. tomorrow. Now, they're also voting on this movement to release these Epstein files. Y'all, we could be 24 hours away from some major movement in this, right? And I know that a lot of people have been like, oh, the distractions. It's not distractions. These are actual efforts to make sure that these unredacted Epstein files, see the light of day. So there was this woman I was watching the Midas Touch. It was this woman who has been kind of interviewing sources within the White House, and was talking about how, one, they were reviewing the files with the intention of targeting the victims. Okay, we're talking Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and others. Okay, actually, let me put my banner back up because I don't want them trying to sue me. Okay, that allegedly they were combing through the files, one, to kind of erase his name, and his name is there thousands of times, they said, going through that. But then also because they wanted to get information so that they could target and try to silence the victims. Guys, why would you need to silence victims unless what the victims have to say is destructive to your party, right? So this is bigger than I think what we're thinking. They said that the reviewers were throwing up and crying as they're watching videos, right? That's what they said. This is what this lady, she was talking, I forget her name again. We'll revisit this on Friday. But she was described, she said, talking to her sources, she's like, they are speaking obviously under, as anonymous because they fear retribution, which is a big issue because everybody fears retribution. Remember when I said he's blackmailing all of them? I think that he's got something on everybody. But I don't know, if it was me and I'm working at the White House and I see a video that makes me cry and want to throw up because it's so horrific, y'all gonna have to kill me because I'm gonna tell the world. I'm gonna leak it. I'm gonna tell the world. I'm gonna make sure everybody knows. I'm gonna send it to everybody that's listening. And if y'all want to come for me, y'all just have to come for me. We're talking about children here, right? I know I'm not the only one. I know y'all care, but sometimes I'm like, am I the only one that gives a damn about these babies, these kids? But it seems like it's become such a common thing. I think we are becoming exposed to how common the trafficking of children for sexual abuse is, not only in the United States, but in the world. And that speaks directly to patriarchy. That speaks directly to misogyny, okay? The patriarchy and the misogyny that dominates our world, right? And we know where that comes from. But it's like, how do you abuse babies? And, I'm sorry, I meant to issue a trigger warning, but it's like, this is where we are. And the fact that the government shut down to cover this up, make no mistake. Forget SNAP, forget Head Start, which is also taking a hit. I see people talking about SNAP and the ACA, but let's not forget Head Start and how that disproportionately, affects low-income children, families, and Black and brown families and stuff like that, right? Education, support, early child care, all of that is funded through the government. They wanted to get rid of it. So we see that all of that's happened. But fundamentally, this is all to prevent these files from being released, because we heard Mike Johnson say it, right? We heard him say that he could not swear her in because the government was shut down, and it's the Democrats that are doing it. He absolutely could have sworn her in at any single moment during this last 7 weeks. He chose not to, because he knew that if he swore her in, they would take this vote. She would cast the deciding vote to release the Epstein files. And if we release the Epstein files, then we get to see just how many of them are in it, right? But anyway, Jeffrey Epstein seems to be this god of war. If you go watch the film this week, it's actually a pretty decent film. He seems to be the god of war, and he was this big time arms dealer, negotiating exchanges and transactions between world leaders that not only involved weapons, but it involved the buying and selling of underage people. Okay. And not just underage. Let's be clear that it wasn't just minors. They all have a preference for minors because they're all vile, disgusting people, but that there were other people as well, and not just girls, right? That's okay. All right. That's a great question, Mo. How do we know they haven't altered things yet? I'm fairly certain that there are people there that all have the originals of everything. We've had scandals like this in the United States before. It always ends up getting released. But the thing is that the average U.S. citizen, I hate to say this, is not smart enough to get all of this. They're just not. We talk about the Panama Papers, Operation Paperclip, things like this. Come on, the average American with their low reading level is just not getting this. So that's how they get over. They know that folks are not really going to understand this stuff, so it is what it is. I'm just wondering how Zoe Kravitz is still walking around, because she made that damn film Blink Twice, and everybody been saying it was a damn documentary. I remember saying that when it came out. I was like, this is a little too close to home. How is Zoe Kravitz still alive? They haven't taken her out yet, but let's keep her. Protected and lifted up. All right, let's get back to the White House. Let's get to the White House, because apparently, let me show you this. The mesothelioma people are not happy with Donald Trump. Hold on, guys. You gotta read this. Mesothelioma.net. People, you've seen the commercials. Mesothelioma comes from exposure to asbestos. On November 4th, they said that asbestos was released by the White House East Wing. Demolition raises the mesothelioma fears. Okay. They were talking about his rapid demolition of the historic White House East Wing has raised many questions and concerns, not the least of which surrounds the significant mesothelioma risk for workers and bystanders exposed to the asbestos released by the work. With the building having originally been constructed in 1902 and renovated in 1942, health advocates and Senate leaders are seeking information about whether required asbestos abatement procedures and safety measures were followed. Okay. And essentially what they are saying, folks, is that they can't find proof of it. Now when you do construction and stuff, some people are more construction experts than I am, but I know the basics of these things. When you're constructing, doing demolitions, constructing new properties, things like that, you have to go through a lot of regulatory steps, right? You have OSHA. They have their requirements for safety for the area and workers and things like that. You've got EPA things, but what they hate the EPA, right? The MAGA administration hates the EPA because the Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to make sure that we are abiding the environmental guidelines and things like that. He wants to get rid of all, he wants to shut down the EPA because he says it limits American production, right? So if the EPA comes in with their regulatory requirements, it means that, it's harder for people to do the work that they got to do. But we need the regulatory things. We need regulations to keep people safe, not just the workers on the sites, but the environment and the people around. And so basically, they're saying that they have looked because you have to file these things public. These things become public record. They have looked, and they don't see no documentation of them going ahead with any asbestos abatements or anything like that. Now, in a building that old, you have to go, before you destroy it, you have to go and do the asbestos abatement. Because if it gets exposed, right, then people get sick. Okay, how many of you know that Donald Trump has a history with promoting asbestos? Okay. I know this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous to all of you, okay? But in 1997, his book, it's like The Art of the Deal, whichever one of those books, right? Something of the deal. He said that asbestos is the greatest fire-resistant, material that we have, or something like that. He advocates using asbestos as a flame retardant, right? He even went so far as to say that in a 2005 congressional hearing, that if the World Trade Center had asbestos, it would not have caught on fire. Like, this is how it's. I don't know if I want to say that the man is stupid. I don't know if I want to say that he is ignorant. I don't want to say that he's he's a plant. I don't know what it is. Okay. But for the longest, and you want to know why? Here's why. Hold on. You're not going to believe this. The reason he promotes this asbestos is because he says that anti-asbestos rhetoric comes from the mob. And he says it's because the mob owns all of the asbestos removal companies, and that's how they make their money. This is the president of the United States. I would like to have Ronald Reagan and his psychic back. I would like to have the throat goat back. Because what is this? Wasn't this? What? I don't know if I read that part, but I can go look. You know what? Don't hold me to it. But I could go back. But he believes that the only reason why we don't like asbestos is because of the mob owning the asbestos removal companies. This man was sued, I believe, somebody fact check me, for construction related issues, asbestos, things like that. He's been sued for everything, like everything related to building buildings and starting new business, not paying people, not honoring contracts, not meeting the regulatory requirements, things like that. Ultimately, what it comes down to is Donald Trump doesn't like being told what to do. And that's why his first term was such a struggle. It was such a revolving door of people coming in and out, because they didn't realize that he was that bad. They thought they had gotten their scapegoat. He would come in, play nice. They could control him, start with this Project 2025 shit, which I keep telling you all is Project 1981. They figured that they could start it going with him, but he could not be controlled back then, because Donald Trump does not want anybody telling him what to do. And then COVID happens, and that kind of derails all the plans, but he's back now. It's a little calmer, but I also think that it's because brain-wise, he's not as strong as maybe he was in 2017. But now they kind of are able to have a little bit of control over him. They are able to kind of feed him more things, but still. But anyway, he was looking to get rid of the ban on asbestos. So Biden era, there's a ban on asbestos. It requires that you do all these things. He was looking to overturn that, but the public came out and was he had zero support for this. So he walked it back in July. You guys can go look that up. Just look up Trump and asbestos. Back in July of this year, he walked it back and he just kind of shut up. But now he's talking about it again. And now it's an issue again. And so sometimes you have to deep dive and kind of see where he's coming from when he's involved in these things. So I just wanted to bring that all to your attention. Today is Veterans Day. Okay, Veterans Day does honor people who have served, people who are currently serving. And we are going to, let's check real quick. Hold on. Let me go. Okay, let's see what we got here. I don't want that. Let's close this. let's close that. Where was the video? Oh, jeez. I don't want the ad choices video. I want you to show me the video. Okay. Hold on. Anyway, I'll stop sharing. But anyway, they're saying that there were plaques that, if you go to Netherlands, there's a memorial to African American soldiers that were fighting against the Nazis in Europe. And the U.S. military cemetery in the Netherlands had plaques honoring them. And like I'm reading this Newsweek, it says approximately 1 million African American soldiers fought in Europe during World War II. We know more than 8,200 Americans are buried at this cemetery. And they had 174 African American soldiers were buried there, memorialized, or what have you. There's a Dutch research project called the Black Liberators. It's the only U.S. military cemetery in the country. Dutch media reported earlier this month that 2 informational panels about African American soldiers in the 20th century had been taken down in the cemetery's visitor center. And this is ridiculous, right? And they're saying it's not clear why they were removed, and they'll probably come up with some shit like, oh, we were just cleaning it. But this is the kind of erasure that we talk about. And I made a comment like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I don't think people are upset enough about the erasure of Blackness from our cultural consciousness. It is happening like it's dizzying, right? There's an all-out assault across the world of people trying to erase Blackness, right? And when I use these terms, you all know I'm an Afrocentric scholar, so the whole Black thing is, whatever. But I use this language so we understand what I'm talking about. When I talk about Blackness, I talk about the cultural bond that we have across the African diaspora, right? Whether you're on the continent of Africa, you're in Europe, you're in the United States, you're in South, wherever you are, you're Black. That's it, right? And again, like there have been some conversations that have been happening online that are disturbing to me because 1, they're not rooted in any historical accuracy, but 2, they rely heavily on colonizer terms and designations to affirm identity, and that concerns me. Like, it's like, and if, I know, again, I won't get too much into it, but if I give you an example, like, you all know how I'm pushing for people to use Ebonics. Ebonics is a term that came up with Dr. Robert Williams to describe this language that we speak. And then they come up later with AAVE. White linguist comes up with this African-American vernacular English, and somehow we start using that more. Or that is what some people were first taught, because there's a book called The Great Ebonics Debate. You should go read it. But it was showing how, we kind of look at how the Republicans demonized the term Ebonics by ridiculing it, right? By making fun of it. And Black people were embarrassed. There's nothing wrong with making a portmanteau of ebony phonics. It's exactly what it is. I thought beautiful Ebonics is great. Maybe that's just me. Maybe because I'm a hood girl, I love stuff like that, right? But the bourgeoisie, the Black bourgeoisie had a problem with it. And they had a problem with it because the Republicans were ridiculing it. And so they would rather use the term, right, created by a white linguist, because the white man's ice is colder, right? And so Black vernacular English, African-American vernacular English, that don't come from us. It's not come from us. And yet people will use it and then get all like in their feelings about defending. I was like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? You all up in arms and you won't even call it Ebonics, which is what it's called. So we're not having the same conversation. And I have to be very careful about not being dismissive of people, because people don't know what they don't know. But at the same time, if you don't know that much, why are you going so damn hard, right? So anyway, this young woman, I just had an exchange with this young woman, and it was really interesting. I bowed out because I didn't feel like arguing again. I told you all I'm feeling a little bit tired. And she said something about how there's a difference between African American ethnicity and I think it's something like African Creoles or whatever. And I was just like, black people from Louisiana, they're African Americans. Like, what are you talking about? Like, but for her, she was like, well, we don't use the term African American. I was like, well, it's a semantics issue. An African American is somebody who is a descendant of the people who were enslaved in this land that were brought here from Africa. Like, what are you talking about? I don't care if you're from Louisiana, Brooklyn, Seattle. If your ancestors were enslaved in this land, you're African American. You're a citizen. You're of the African diet, the descendant of the African enslaved Africans. You're African American. Okay, I get that you know people don't like political terms or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to use Black American, but I have to remind you all that Black is a colonizer term. Black is what was created by white people to designate us and to other us. At least when we say African American, we are honoring that there's a people from the continent of Alkebulan that are all connected by these African cultural practices. But the problem is that a lot of you don't even understand what African cultural practices represent. People say, oh, there's different types of African cultures. And no, it's not. It's all the same shit. And I have to keep saying this to people. I know people get upset when I say this. It's all the same thing. Okay? You a family. Your cousin lives in Chicago, got a Chicago accent. Your other cousin lives in Florida, got a Florida accent. You got an uncle that lives in New York and got a New York accent. Y'all the same family. Okay? Shut the fuck up. You're all the same family. Okay? Your accent may be a little bit different. You like your spaghetti mixed in. You eat your spaghetti with fish. You don't eat spaghetti at all. You're still the same family. It's all the same thing. And ultimately, when we get to it, we all have the same cultural practices, even if they show up in different colonizer languages, right? And different colonizer ways of being. We are all the same. And so people get up, well, the East Africans are this and West, but the same people, half the West Africans were originally East Africans because the Arabs trafficked them from the East to the West. So what are you talking about? You're all the same people. And so there's been this discourse lately where people are trying to divorce themselves of enslavement on the continent, on the North American continent. And it's ridiculous to me. We're all the same. It's all the same. I don't care. You want to add your little French, your little Spanish, your little whatever. It's all colonizer languages. French, Spanish, English. They're all colonizer language. One don't make you spicier than the other. And a lot of Black people tend to do that. When my people speak Spanish, so we different. You ain't different. You speak a colonizer language. Spanish is no different from English. English is no different from French. French is no different from Portuguese. They're all colonizer languages. But somehow, because of the hatred of African Americans, because of the global hatred of African Americans, right? And this is global. When I say global, I mean from Italy to Nigeria to Peru to Canada. There is a global hatred of African Americans due to all of the stigma, all of the lies, all of the stereotypes, and all these kinds of things, that somehow we are at the bottom rung of the ladder of Black people around the world, right? Despite the fact that we have shaped the entire global culture of everything, right? Entertainment, everything comes from us, right? All the popular music, everything comes from African Americans, but that's okay. Everybody treats us like we're at the bottom. And I understand the trauma of that and people not wanting to be associated with that. I always understand how people always want a leg up. They want to be something other. This is why African Americans will sometimes claim, I got Indian in my family. I got this. No, you don't. You're Black. You're African. But some people do, right? There are definitely Afro-Indigenous people I have in mind. You see this fucking red ass skin that I have? Where does this come from? It doesn't come from, whatever. So I know that this is a real thing, but I don't cling to that any more than I talk about grandmother being white. Like, I don't care about that shit. I'm nigga. Like, fucking nigga. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I love being Black. And it's really hard for me to have conversations with people who do not love this, right? Like, it's very hard talking to Black people who don't love being Black. And Kwame Teresa, I saw somebody in the chat mention Kwame Teresa, we have to have an undying love for our people. And so a lot of the conversations we've been seeing lately, first of all, I just want to say that some of these are plants. Some of these are ops. You have to remember that COINTELPRO is a thing. You have to remember that the CIA is a thing. You have to remember that the Russian interference It's not just about elections. They have plans to disrupt and cause division within the African American community. And they are definitely stoking these so-called diaspora wars. A lot of these accounts that you see that are either talking about African Americans having no culture or talking negatively about Haitians or things like that. These are ops. These are plants. I need you all to stop engaging them. Just block it and keep it going. You have to recognize these things. But I'm seeing people that are really adamant about divorcing themselves from something that we did not do. This was done to us, right? And for some reason, there are people that internalize this as though slavery is somehow our fault or our responsibility. And it's not. It's the barbarism of whiteness. Okay? It is the savage barbarism of whiteness. And anytime we start getting into these conversations, they're winning, right? And so this woman was like, we don't use African American in our Creole language. I'm like, where the fuck do you think the word Creole comes from? Where does this idea of Creole come from? It don't come from y'all. This is a colonizer identity. Like, it doesn't matter. Your ancestors were enslaved in Louisiana. My ancestors were enslaved in South Carolina. You're telling me I'm a different ethnicity than you? No, we're not. Because just as easily, my ancestors could have been sent to Louisiana, which is where they sent enslaved people. So, because Louisiana was known for being the harshest state for slavery, had some of the worst conditions, and the people were treated horribly. And again, we're talking post 1800. I've said this before, pre 1808. The lives and experiences of enslaved people in this nation were very different before they stopped the import of people. Okay, that's 1808. So after that, things got a lot different or what have you. But what are y'all talking about? And so they say to me that, respectfully, African American is a different ethnicity. And no, it's not. No, it's not. First of all, y'all need to be able to define ethnicity without using colonizer terms. If anybody wants to put that in the chat, explain what an ethnicity is to me without using something that you learned in racist ass sociology or using colonizer theories. You're not going to be able to do it, so I'm just going to stop you before you get started, right? So every time we start talking about that kind of stuff, right? There's a book called Being Human Being, Molefi Asante and Nadav. They talk about, we need to focus on talking about culture. This comes up in that SWANA conversation too. People are saying that, people are being racist against SWANA people. You can't be racist against SWANA people. You know why? Because SWANA people are not all the same people. What the fuck are you talking about? A SWANA person can be white, black, something in between. And so how are you racist against a people that are from various nations in a particular region? Again, people just say anything online. They don't interrogate what they're saying. And it's nonsense, okay? And so, and Dr. Asante, one of the things that he said that always stuck with me, and I repeat this often, he's like, Blackness is not about who you are, it's about how you show up in this community. And it's not phenotypically designed. It is not about your skin color, your hair texture, things like that. That's what the colonizers said. Oh, you are dark skinned, therefore you are Black. You have this, you have whatever, you're yellow, you're red, you're this, you're that. No, stop letting colonizers define who you are, right? Anyway, he said it's about how you show up in your community, right? I am because we are. One of the oldest community-based theories ever. I am because we are. And that's what it's about. And what I'm seeing is a fracturing in these online discourses about what it means to be. But I actually have I did a whole lecture on what it means to be. What is Black? Like, what does it mean to be Black? So I get frustrated, right? And then people talk to me and they'll say things like, well, I suggest that you go do some more research on this and educate yourself. Okay. Well, at that point, okay. Because my name does not say Feminista Jones, PhD. It doesn't say these things. So people don't know that they're talking to somebody who is one of the few people in the world that actually has a PhD in African-American studies. And just to remind people, it's an extremely rare degree to have, right? I think we just got another school, so maybe 22 schools in this country offer such a degree, right? I got one. You don't. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean I can't ever be wrong. But what it does say is that I have a little bit of expertise. And I know because of social media that we downplay expertise. We don't trust the experts anymore. Nobody's an expert to anybody anymore, right? So, sometimes people talk to me like I'm stupid and I just back away. You got it. You're going to tell me I need to go and research some stuff. This one lady was telling me that HBCUs began in the 1930s and the 50s. She's arguing with me about the Harlem Renaissance. And I was like, okay, what do I know? Anywho, well, you got it. You got it. Mind you, over 90 of the HBCUs were created between 1866 and 1877. But why would I know this? Not like I studied the Reconstruction or anything. It's okay, But she says that the Harlem Renaissance and then the Depression led to where we get the HBCUs. And I said, okay, well, can you cite your sources for this shit? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's really hard for me sometimes because I want to make sure that people have the correct knowledge. But I also understand that, again, the white man's ice is colder. So me, as a Black woman, as an African-American woman, people are socialized to not believe me, even if I have both a bachelor undergrad degree in African American studies and a PhD in African American studies, and which represents over 25 years of study. They're still trained not to believe and not to listen to me. So that's okay. It is what it is. But I just want you all to be aware that there's something happening related to this. It's not the typical diaspora wars and all that bullshit, which again, all of that to me is a psyop. There are people that are plants. There are people who are just self-loathing Africans. And when I say Africans, I'm talking about everybody. You're African in Brooklyn, you're African in Lagos. There are a lot of self-hating Africans who engage and talk this nonsense, and I don't have time for that. Yes, like it's okay, but she knew everything. So hey, again, so people get upset because I'll respond a lot of times. I'm like, what year were you born? Because if you're born after 1995, I'm not having this conversation with you, not for free. So I know a lot of people don't like that, but y'all are dumb. So I don't. Why am I wasting my time? All right, what else we got on here? Just real quick, you got to see this this bullshit here. Hold on. I'm a little tired, y'all. A little bit tired. I gotta probably lay down a little bit. Here we go. This is fun. Okay. Erica Kirk is back at the White House. Why? Don't she have kids to raise? I don't understand how this woman stayed at the club. She reminds me of Eric Adams, okay? It's funny that her name is Erica. Eric Adams was always at the club when he should have been governing the people of New York City.
We just knew Miss Charlie, and his wife, who we love so much, is here with us. And maybe, you know how close they were together. Maybe, Erica, you could say a couple of words, please.
An honor to, sir. Charlie loved you. It's hard not to get emotional because I know that he would have been the first phone call when he found out that you were going to be taking this position. And the way that I was able to witness the two of you work together for years.
Who did she be looking at? She's always looking up in the sky.
Support the president.
Anybody notice that?
Was absolutely humbling to witness, and I am so proud of you. And Charlie is going to be with you every single day in spirit, and I will be praying for you every day because I know that this is just the beginning of an incredible opportunity for you. And sir, thank you for allowing Sergio to have this beautiful moment.
Thank you very much.
Girl, shut the hell up. What the hell is going on, folks? What is the... What is she talking about? She's always like, oh, wait. Come on, Tear. Come out. What was she wearing? What was her, like, listen, Serena Joy ain't fooling nobody. Serena Joy ain't fooling nobody. Nobody. Okay. And then no, actually, let's go out on this note. One thing, Trump talking about the Medal of Honor. You just dumb. Just dumb. Hold on. I know y'all don't like when I say dumb, but y'all gotta let me have that one little term. I hate to say it. I'm sorry.
Are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania. No, I didn't hear that. I only heard when I say better, I would rather in a certain way get it because people that get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I've given to many, are often horribly wounded or dead. They're often dead. They get it posthumously. And when you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, I always consider that to be the ultimate, but it is a painful thing to get it. When you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's usually for other things, like you've achieved great success in sports or you've achieved great success someplace else. When you get the Medal of Honor, generally speaking, and I've met many of them and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that it's much more painful to get because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up and they've suffered greatly, whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody suffered other than they've worked hard and they've done great things. One's a military award, one's a civilian award, but sometimes very painful to get the other.
Okay. Okay. Well, the president is not. So one of the hardest things about being me is being so goddamn brilliant and being stuck on a planet, this rock with so many people who are not. I'd be in my house. I'd rather talk to my cats than talk to these stupid people. Anyway, y'all, thank you for tuning in today. It's all political theater. I always want to remind you all of that. Make sure that you understand this shit is not real. These people are actors. They're bad actors at that. They are always playing in our faces. They are always trying to manipulate us. You got to keep your head on swivel. You got to read things. People got upset with me because I was talking about the asbestos thing or whatever online, and I didn't have a link to anything. I don't have to have a link. I'd say what I want. And let me have a real quick rant. A lot of you, make these demands on social media. Maybe not y'all, because y'all understand me, but a lot of people make these demands on social media as though other people are supposed to be posting for them, for their benefit. I have been using social media for like 20 years now, if not more. And it's like, people get to say, and actually it's been more than that. I've been using, or if we want to go back to the AOL chats, I've been using social media since I was 18 years old. Like, people can say what they want. They could say what they want. It's your choice whether you engage it or you ignore it or let it fly. I should be able to say, that was a great dinner. And I don't have to elaborate on what the dinner was. You know what's going to happen in my replies? Well, why don't you tell us what you ate? Why is this so vague? You guys just want clicks. You just want likes. That's all you're doing. You're rage baiting. You're and I'm like, you're clickbaiting. What is there to click? You call something clickbait, there's no link. So what am I baiting you to click, you stupid ass? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I don't, somebody, I said something about, the witch hazel trick works. And I had just been talking about, being perimenopausal and kind of like smelling funkier than usual. And people were like, yo, try using witch hazel on your armpits before you put your deodorant, stuff like that. It was a very open, candid conversation because Gen X has decided that we're going to talk about menopause and perimenopause in the ways that our parents did not talk, the generation before us didn't. And so we're openly discussing these things. And so many people, like so many Black women specifically said, put some witch hazel under your arms, let it dry, then put your deodorant on. I had not heard of that hack before, but you know what I do? I trust Black women because Black women are descendant of people, of other women who were root workers and herb workers and conjurers and have these kinds of tricks and these things. They know these things, right? So of course I'm going to try. I got 5 Black women saying to put witch hazel under my arms. I'm going to put witch hazel under my arms. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me, right? And so I said something about, the witch hazel trick worked or whatever. And this woman is arguing with me. And first of all, she tells me that I need to change my diet and lower my stress. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she was like, well, why were you so vague? You didn't tell anybody what this was about. I was like, we already had this conversation. I don't have to spell these things out. And part of that is a byproduct of No Child Left Behind because the people that were raised being educated under NCLB were fed everything, right? They were fed all of the answers, everything they needed to be able to pass the test. Because if they did not pass the test, Bush threatened to defund schools that were failing. And so instead of just focusing, okay, well, let's just try to bring everybody up, a lot of these schools decided we're just going to give the kids the answers so that they can pass these tests so that we don't lose our funding, right? We have an entire generation that was educated like that. And those people are now 30 years old, 31 years old, 32 years old, and they are on social media and they are arguing with us when they didn't learn how to think critically. They didn't learn how to read whole books, analyze them, immerse themselves in them, all these kinds of things. And so they want things handed to them. They want things spoon-fed to them. And I don't do that. The professor in me is always going to be like, go look it up. And so people get upset with that. They want things so easy. And in this microwave, instant gratification society that we're in, they want you to lay everything out. And I don't do that. That's not how I post. Or when I do, it's by my own choice. But people have to remember that we are allowed to post however and whatever we want to post on social media. If it violates the terms of service, report us and we'll get kicked off. If you don't like what it is, keep scrolling or block or ignore or indicate not interested, whatever it is you have to do. But the fact that so many people take time to reply to things that they don't like, to try to tell somebody to be different or tell them what they should be doing, that's not the work of what we're supposed to be doing. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I need this to stop. Some of us, we slip, we fall into it or whatever. We all need to stop. We all need to stop and keep moving forward. There's a whole big thing that's happening on Threads now where these Antifa accounts are attacking Black women and, making accusations and things like that. I'm like, how can they even see what you're doing? Why haven't you blocked them? You said they've been doing this for months. At what point do you block them? At what point do you stop engaging? Let them talk what they want to talk. Okay, it's not taking food off your table, is it? It's not threatening your business, is it? It's just people talking. It's just white leftists or whatever just talking. Block them and keep going because we got work to do. We have mutual aids to support and to fund. We have organizations that we need to thrive and support. We have so many other things to do than argue with people online about stupid shit, right? And I have a general rule. Some of you may have experienced it or whatever. I don't reply to you more than 3 times in the same exchange. No, we don't do that. I want you all to take that on. Stop going back and forth with people, especially people that are stupid. I love you all. I love you. I love you. I love you with the love of freedom. I love you with the love of liberation. I want you to remember that you matter. I want you to remember that we will win. You wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you say, we will win. Before you go to bed at night, you say, we will win, and believe it. We're here. We're all we got. We're going to stick together and we're going to keep this moving. I will see y'all on Friday.